Today I wanted to talk about the central bank digital currency, also referred to as the CBDC, because I believe that the digital dollar is coming sooner than later. Reason being is that a recent report issued by the Bank for International Settlements, also known as BIS, together with a group of 7 central banks, including Bank of Japan, European Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, and Bank of England, they have published a report laying out the key requirements for a central bank digital currency. So after reading that document, I'm convinced that the Fed will not bail out commercial banks like they did in 2008, which could lead to 90% of the current banking system collapsing. Now let's get into the report, and in the end, I will show you what the future of banking most likely will look like. And please also remember that this is not my own prediction or opinion. It is all stated in the CBDC report issued by BIS. Now, for those of you who have never heard about BIS, Bank for International Settlement, well, it is the mother of all central banks. It was established in 1930, and the BIS is owned by 62 central banks, global central banks, representing countries from around the world that together account for 95% of world GDP. So this newly released report is setting out early principles for how national digital currencies can help implement monetary policies. In basic terms, it really highlights 3 key principles that we should pay attention to. The first is, a central bank should not compromise its mandate of keeping monetary or financial stability by issuing a CBDC. And I guess that's obvious, right? I mean, the central banks, they want to keep their mandate. Well, second, a CBDC would need to coexist and complement existing forms of money. I personally do not believe that. I think that they will coexist with the paper money only until the transition is over. But anyway, this is what they highlight. The third, which I think is the most important, a CBDC should promote innovation and efficiency. And from my point of view, this is where it becomes tricky, because cryptocurrencies are programmable. And now, to what extent this power will be used is difficult to say. But this is, from my point of view, for the politicians with the bankers to decide. We cannot do a lot. But I want to jump to China just for a moment in order for you to see how programmable such coins can actually be. The People's Bank of China recently revealed some results from their latest test, indicating that 3.1 million digital transactions have been made in a commercial setting. And their wallets were hooked up to facial recognition, barcode scanning, tap-and-go payment technologies. In fact, the digital yuan transacted over 6,700 types of use cases. These applications included retail, hospitality, transportation, utility payments, and government services. So you see, there's no limit in terms of how programmable such a currency can be. Just to give you another example, it can be that a Chinese citizen wants to travel out of China. As soon as he gets across the border, he cannot transfer his money anymore. It is just an example. So this is what the not too distant future could look like. The CBDC is being viewed as a potential control mechanism. Therefore, when and to what extent it will be implemented is difficult to say. But I'm convinced it's only a matter of time. I think government officials, they just need a reason. The pandemic, and perhaps a second lockdown, will increase the chances of a global financial crisis. Now, I'm a firm believer that even without the pandemic, the current global financial monetary system wasn't and is not sustainable. And this now takes me to my final scenario. 90% of current banks will go bust, including all commercial, lending, and mortgage banks. Now, it doesn't really matter if the pandemic is to blame or if it's mismanagement of liquidity. What matters is, what will the future of finance look like? You see, the Federal Reserve is not obliged to bail out the banks. Many think so. The Fed is only obliged to keep monetary and financial stability, which was point 1 of the report. Point 3 was that a CBDC should promote innovation and efficiency. So let's look at this slide that was also issued by BIS, because here they're displaying how the 3 different models could be of implementing the digital dollar. In the indirect CBDC model, the consumer has a claim on an intermediary, with the central bank keeping track of wholesale accounts. Pretty much what we have today. In the direct CBDC model, the CBDC represents a direct claim on the central bank, which keeps a record of all balances and updates it with every transaction. That would just be the Federal Reserve and end clients. The third, the hybrid CBDC model, is an intermediate solution providing for direct claims on the central bank while allowing intermediaries to handle payments. Remember, it was about the third point, innovation and efficiency. I mean, the BIS is pretty much showing how it's supposed to be. So before we end, I just want to share a few thoughts with you. Obviously, nobody knows which model is it going to be. Is it going to be the first, the second, or the third? However, from my point of view, I could imagine that it would be the third model, which is the hybrid. And why do I think so? Well, if you look at our little map here of the ecosystem, if you look down at the bottom, we have Bitcoin and we have Ethereum. Now try to imagine that there would just be another blockchain, and that would be the central bank digital currency. Now, even though that would be a centralized blockchain, it would still need all the other players of the ecosystem. So basically, you could say it would be a centralized, decentralized ecosystem. And I think that the hybrid model is the only valid, because the digital currency from the government would just as well need the validators. They would need the oracles, right? They would need the protocols. And what do these protocols do? Well, the protocols as Compound, as Ren, as Maker, they're the lending protocols. They need the oracles like Chainlink and DOS that can, bridge all the information. So this is why I've always say the future of finance is being built right in front of our eyes. And that's also how I make out my call that I don't think that the Fed is going to bail out the banks. Because why would they? You see, if you would still have and work with the current banking system, you would have to implement so much technology, and that would be costly. So in the past 3, 4, 5 years, the ecosystem of the future financial world has been built. And I believe it's going to be a lot on Ethereum. This is it from me. In case you enjoyed it or found it valuable, then please hit like, smash, subscribe, criticize. Everything is appreciated. I hope to see you soon. And as always, God bless America.